you have just completed one of the longest dives ever in Iceland under the icebergs. And this was the moment when you were speaking on stage at Brilliant Minds where we met, and you made us close our eyes and kind of feel what that experience would be like, which obviously none of us can relate to by closing our eyes. And then you showed footage of you diving under these icebergs in Greenland with just your breath, with no oxygen, with nothing. I was terrified just watching it. I wasn't even there.
I'm sorry.
So I just want you to try and take the listeners and the viewers on YouTube through that experience. 1, why did you want to do that challenge? And 2, how did that feel like? Because it's just pure darkness. Imagine going through it.
Solitude.
I say darkness, not in a place from like a mental place of darkness. As in like you can't see anything, so it's quite terrifying.
Yeah, the place in itself, just by describing it, I think it's very sane to feel that you don't want to go there, because I think everyone can like imagine a big place of ice, like cold, and it's windy, and there's nothing there apart from a hole that looks like a triangle. And it's dark, and it's so cold that the hole is basically freezing up in a matter of seconds. So what we had in Greenland was minus 25 degrees Celsius on the surface, and in the water, it's ocean water, so salt water. So salt water freezes at a lower temperature than fresh water. So it was minus 2 degrees in the water. So when you go into that water, it's not about that you're cold, because you're already super cold. It's about understanding that you are not the cold. So you have to accept it. You can't control it. And I think starting with, acceptance is the opposite of control, right? So you almost have to embrace it. And a part of that as a free diver is that cold water increases your dive response. It makes the brain realize faster that, okay, we're going to dive now. We're going to hold our breath and we're going to dive into that cold water. So your body adapts to conserving oxygen and also heat to your vital organs even better. So for me, it's a really good response that not that I was freezing cold. I wasn't shaking, don't get me wrong. But I know that the environment in itself is helping me to do what I'm supposed to do. So I think that's the physical aspect, and also somewhat, maybe the chemical aspect of it. And then when it comes to doing the dive in itself, was because as I told you, and it was at Brilliant Minds on the stage, it was like that was my deepest fear. And by doing the dive, I figured that...
The deepest fear was going under the icebergs in the darkness, because I guess there's no way for you to get out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You would get, there's a lot of dangers with it, but just the fact that I can't get up whenever I want. So I figured that beyond that big fear is a big freedom. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I found.
At any point when you were diving, though, did you have a panic, a fear, a worry? Well, what goes... I'm trying to... Because I can imagine where my brain would go, and obviously, I would go into complete and utter panic, and I'm sure people listening to this would. How do you control your mindset to not get into that state? I can understand kind of the positive mental attitude and the focus, but how do you not get to that sense of fear if that is your biggest fear?
I think it's a lot about controlling what you can control. And in a place like that, when you sit on that icy hole with your, feet or your legs ready to jump in, is about the only thing that I am at that moment is my thoughts and feelings. So if I start thinking that I won't make it, this is a stupid idea, what am I doing here? This is cold, I'm hungry, I should go back to the hotel and call my mother. That won't take me anywhere. Definitely not to the place where I decided that I wanted to go. So it's a lot about, I wouldn't say positive affirmation, but about having an intrinsic goal, and trusting the process in terms of, I know that my dive response is super strong. And it took me 1 year to prepare for this dive. And that process the friction that I encountered and the problems made me so strong. It made me much stronger than I thought that I would ever be. So when I did go into that void, that darkness, I was stronger than I ever thought that I possibly could be.
You mentioned something there. I read it on your Instagram, which I loved. The ocean is a closer reflection of who we are than any other mirror.
Yeah, you can't hide from water or the ocean.
So what has it taught you? Like, what did that year training to do this biggest fear of yours, of diving under the icebergs in Greenland, what has it taught you?
It taught me that there is indeed a lot of peace and freedom when you face your fear. Because a lot of my life, I started in the Swedish Armed Forces when I was 14 as like a youngster to try it out because I wanted to become a fighter jet pilot. And everything I did up until I was 35 was about facing friction. Like the more friction, the more I went there. Like if someone told me you can't do this, I was like, screw you, I'm doing this even more now. Mm-hmm. And then I came to a point of my life, I was like, I'm so sick of facing friction and bouncing my head into a wall. So I ended up quitting the army.
At 35? At what?
Yeah, 35, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's also about the time where I found, where I have discovered freediving. First as just a sport where I could be alone at depth. And then I started competing, and then I started breaking records, and then I became the national team captain, and I had my own freediving school. So everything was about, freediving as a sport. And then freediving in itself, it's very close to nature, and it's very, meditative, and you really have to have a strong body, a strong mind, and also a strong heart. So the lack that I had, my weakness, was my emotional part. And I think that's where the friction came into place, that I'm so sick and tired of running uphill. I want to swim in the ocean, and I don't care how stormy it is. Because if I bring stress to the ocean and fear, I will get anxiety in a big wave back, straight in my face. If I bring peace and patience, I will get freedom.
That's really powerful.
It is. The ocean is the most nurturing and healing teacher that we have, I would say.